Welcome to my podcast. This is a podcast where I'll be teaching you all the systems and strategies you need in creating your visibility so you can turn your passion for coaching into a profitable business. I'm your host, Michelle Kuei. I am a visibility coach, content and email marketing strategist, international speaker, and author, as well as the founder of Elevate Life Coaching. Let's just say that I know a few things about overcoming seemingly impossible obstacles in life and in business. I'm on a mission to be the champion that helps you to get to the top of your mountain, one courageous step at a time. Welcome to the show. One thing that I found over the years while doing podcasts is that how amazingly it fit into my personality as an introverted person. One of the struggles I had when I first started out my coaching business is that I didn't feel comfortable about using my live stream. Yes, I do a lot of live stream, but at the end of the day, if I can choose between live stream versus just closing my door, having my alone time, enjoying that moment, just spending alone by myself without having to be like this high energy level, I would always choose to be alone. I think we all, as introverted women coaches, we all struggle with like that intimacy. I have no problem in smaller groups, but when it comes to bigger groups or not knowing where I'm my audience, that triggers a lot of that negative self-talk. And which is why I love about doing podcasts. I can turn on my microphone and I could be spending my alone time inside my room or inside my office, whatever you want to call it, your CEO chair. You can just turn on the camera and share your thoughts. And that's a very private experience that you don't need to share with anybody else. And once the episode is out, you're sharing your knowledge, your words is out there. So there's so many benefits that I can see someone having a podcast and being on a podcast show. Today, I have an visibility expert, Nina Macari, who joined me from Romania, and she has been helping her clients to pitch on different podcast episodes, and she herself also has a podcast. And it's just amazing to be able to connect with another person in a private setting that we don't have to be interrupted. We don't have to feel like we're all out there and trying to do more live, engaging people. I can have this alone time while preserving my privacy and enjoying my moment, that I have this deeper connection with someone that I can trust. I know I interview them. And, once the word is out there, it will spread the word and benefit more people. So join me with this episode where Nina shares her 3 steps framework on how to have a successful podcast pitch. Enjoy the show. I have Nina Macari, who is a visibility expert helping female entrepreneurs to get more visibility and connect with their dream client through podcast interview. And that is exactly what you need, I think, my friend. She is the creator of the P.I.T.C.H pitch podcast framework, helping clients pitching themselves to the right podcast with ease and confidence in an authentic way. After spending hundreds and hundreds of podcast pitches, Nina had realized what kind of pitches that need to be put out into the world, and she knows exactly what element needs to be included in order for this to be a successful pitch. Not only did she get an amazing feedback from her successful clients, but she also impresses podcast hosts to whom she pitches to. So today, Nina is going to join me today and help us to achieve the podcast interview with success. Hello, Nina.
Hello, Michelle. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Thank you so much for coming. I think one of the biggest struggles, a lot of, especially the audience I'm serving, they're mostly introverted women coaches who's trying to get their name and also their company out there so that their clients can find them. They can use something that's very kind of like, it's a safe place for us to be. We don't have to be out in the world. We don't have to be all glamorous on the camera, but it provides a really safe space to be on a podcast and talking to the host. So how did you get into the industry?
To be honest, I totally feel your audience because this is me. When I started my business, I thought that you have to be this shiny person, as you said, this glamorous entrepreneur. I thought that the room and the mic is only for them. So when I started, I thought, I have this admin background. So all I'm going to do is to work behind the scenes. I'm going to help other moms grow their businesses because this is what got me started. I was a stay-at-home mom for more than 5 years. Then in the meantime, we moved to a different city, so I couldn't go back to my previous job. So I was looking for something fulfilling. Mm-hmm. And this 9 to 5 that I got was anything but fulfilling. And also, I was seeing my kids only 5 minutes before bedtime. And I thought, this is not a life for me. This is not what I want for my life. And only with this idea in mind that I could help other mompreneurs grow their businesses, I quit my job, went home. Also, I had my husband's support. I have to say that because maybe not everyone is so fortunate. So if you are not in this position, please carefully think about it, make a plan, start a side job, a side gig business until you make all the money that you want that can help you support your life. And I started as a social media manager. I found a Facebook group where I learned how to be a social media manager, but I realized that I don't like this interaction 3 times a day, all day long in Facebook groups. And then I was looking for other ways to market myself. My problem was also that I couldn't land long-term clients. So I had a profile on Upwork, but I was only finding small gigs. And I was frustrated because I knew that I can serve my clients, but I wasn't confident enough. And what I did, I started taking different courses on Pinterest, on how to build a sales funnels, on WordPress. But again, this lack of confidence wasn't allowing me to market myself as having this new skill because I thought that is not enough to just have a course. I thought that you need to know everything in order to market yourself. And then finally, I landed on this webinar on podcast pitching, and they were promoting a course. But this time the course was different because they were giving access both to the VA and to the business owner. Mm-hmm. And then I thought, what if I could find a client who is very busy, doesn't have the time to do all this pitching, but still they are interested in getting more visible. Mm-hmm. And I just posted in that Facebook group that I'm interested in bartering my services in exchange for the course. And luckily, an amazing client said yes. And not only that I got to learn a new skill, I also got a new client, and she referred me to a friend of hers. And this gave me the courage and the push that I needed to keep going. And this is how I started.
Mm-hmm. I think there's so many things that you have just shared that a lot of coaches and just women entrepreneurs in general that we struggle almost on a daily basis, right? There's that, inner critics that says, oh, how dare you? How do you think about like even starting a business? How can you? And you're not even good at public speaking. How do you even talk to people in general? So there's a lot of that negative self-talk that's going on that causes us to feel that, oh, we need to know everything in order to be good at and in order to charge people. And a lot of time, I tell my clients it's not true, right? You just need to have that 10% edge. You just need to have that 10%. You just need to be 10 steps ahead of the people that you're actually helping so that you can tell them like, hey, this is a mistake that I have made and this is how you avoid it. And I also love the fact that you're helping others to pitch because I'll be honest, like when I first started out, I didn't know how to pitch. I didn't know what would it take in order for someone to, hey, pay attention. Because I'm sure like these podcasts, they receive hundreds of pitches every single day. Like in my inbox, I cannot tell you how many pitches I receive every single day. So what would make a good pitch? Like in your experience, you've been helping clients doing their pitches and you also pitch for yourself. What would make it a good pitch?
So this would be my third step of my framework. Do you want to start there?
Let's start with the first one. First
okay.
step. Take us through the steps.
Exactly. Because it's easier if we do it this way.
Yes.
So the first step is to prep your message. This means that you need to get some clarity on what you want to share on those podcast interviews. And I'm sure that you've seen or you've received pitches that will send you some general broad topics like entrepreneurship, or I even see what is love. And this was for an entrepreneurial podcast. But like, people need specificity. People don't want to hear these general topics. So you need to decide what you want to share. And yes, it has to be one thing, but this doesn't mean that you cannot have several topic ideas under that big umbrella. Mm-hmm. But you need to keep in mind, what do you want to be known for the next 3 to 5 years? And I'm sure you decide today, but maybe in 3 years, you stumble on something else that is very exciting and you take a turn. This can happen, but still you will have your name out there and you share what you are an expert in right now. So I'm sure that even your audience have helped some clients doing XYZ, or they went through some struggles and they found a unique solution. Mm-hmm. And this is what they can share. So it's very important to keep in mind your message. And then now with this GPT chat, we can have so many names for our topics. So definitely it's going to help us find some titles so that we can wrap up our message when we are going to present it to potential podcasters. So this would be the first thing. And then also all the other elements that we need to have in place: a few headshots, your bio, even a one sheet if you want to create one. And I think it's useful to have one. So have in place all these elements, because then when someone is going to say yes, you are good to go. You have everything that you need to have in place and you just can send them. You are not going to freak out. Okay, so now what do I do? Who am I going to ask? Yeah. You have them and you send them. Mm-hmm.
Does your life coaching business attract the right clients to you? You're finding yourself stuck and not sure where to begin, how to start in order to attract and connect with your dream clients. This idea of posting on social media about your coaching business is just so overwhelming that you find yourself getting all caught up in questioning, what type of content should I post? What do I need to say in order to get them to stop the score and get more clients? Imagine you can write, speak, create any messages that resonate with your potential dream client without sacrificing your uniqueness. Having the flow with your words, the language that you use that makes yourself memorable to your audience, who will naturally be drawn to you. And at the end of the day, creating a marketing style that attracts your dream client who feels aligned so that you can build stronger bonds, happier clients, and closing more leads. I completely understand, and that is why I created this simple guide to start a conversation that would inspire people to take action and transform the way that you market your coaching business, all in 5 simple, easy to follow steps. So head over to coremessage.attractclientthroughstorytelling.com today to grab your copy. It is time to claim your uniqueness, my friend.
And then the second step would be to identify the right podcast for you. And here I would start with your ideal client in mind. Because yes, it's important for you to practice, especially as you mentioned, your listeners are introverts, entrepreneurs. And here I would suggest them to start with people they already know. So first of all, you have your audience in mind, you have your topics, and then you can start making a list with people you know that maybe don't have a podcast, but maybe they do Instagram lives or they have a Facebook group where they have guests. So if your topic is going to be beneficial to their audience, then they will say yes. And you are going to feel more comfortable because you already know them and you just have a friendly conversation with them. So this would be the warm outreach. And then you can have the cold outreach. And this means that you are going to reach out to people that you don't know. And also, it's very important to keep in mind that your topics must be aligned with the topic of their podcast. Because, for example, I had a former client and she is teaching podcasting, but she decided to let go of her Instagram account. And she had a lot of episodes on the results that she got. And when someone is going to pitch her how to grow your Instagram account or how to make sales in the DMs, she will say no because this is not her thing. She is not even using her Instagram account, and she is teaching her clients not to use it and to use their podcast to grow an audience and their businesses. So you need to pay attention. You need to very carefully look at the description of the podcast. You will want to stalk them a little bit on social media, even follow them and connect with them a little bit on social media, and make sure that your topics are aligned. And there are a lot of resources where you can find podcasts, from Facebook groups to using these platforms as a search tool. So you only need to keep in mind your topics, your audience, and then just go for the research. It's going to take some time, especially when you are going to get started. But you are going to create the step-by-step process and you are going to get better at it, I'm sure. Because to be honest, I was overwhelmed when I started, but I realized that the more you will do it, the more you will get better at it.
Yeah. So my podcast had kind of evolved, like you said, right? So your client's example where she's no longer teaching people how to use Instagram to grow revenues. I no longer do the life coaching and mindset coaching aspects of it. This is kind of like an example of what we talked about earlier, how podcasts can really help you grow the audience and the audience would become your paying clients, right? Because like years ago, when I was doing life coaching and mindset coaching, I still had episodes that was out there and people are still finding those episodes and coming to me and say, hey, do you still do life coaching and mindset coaching? And that's just not something that I do anymore. And so my podcast has evolved to a complete different audience. And now my audience are all entrepreneurs and women coaches, and I no longer serve. When I look for podcasts, I also align myself to like, oh, so these are the topic I'm talking about. And that's the topic that I no longer talk about. But I can definitely find you a client who can speak on that topic. And so a lot of time I just refer it to my clients. It's so interesting how the podcast world has evolved and it has expanded. And so what are some of the way that you as visibility expert would suggest for someone to kind of stand out in their profile?
Well, it really depends on their personality. And I don't think that one thing works for all of us. So you will have to see what resonates with you best. Mm-hmm. And yes, I love podcasting because, as you mentioned, this is recorded. I feel comfortable chatting with you. I know that there is no one watching us, and this works for me. But maybe there are other people out there who really love live events and they love to be in front of people. And if this works for them, then they should start this way. So yeah, I think you need to try and you need to experiment what works for you. And for example, I hosted an audio summit. So everything was only audio because I know people are busy. I consume a lot of audio content. I don't have patience to sit in front of the computer and watch videos, but this works for me. So you need to also see what your audience is consuming and then try to match what you like with what they like.
Yeah. And I think it also goes back to what we were talking about earlier, being an entrepreneur. There's a lot of inner critics that shows up, right? You're not good enough. And I think one of the big hurdle and holdbacks for a lot of coaches, especially on podcasts nowadays, is that, they have that presumption or assumption of when I do podcasts, I have to do live, I have to stream it to Facebook, I have to stream it to YouTube, which is not entirely true. There's so many different formats. And so what are some of the challenges that you see that your client is experiencing in addition to just not knowing how to pitch?
Yeah, so it can be overwhelming. And when you are just getting started, I think comparison trap really holds us back because we are looking at other people who are a few steps ahead of us.
Mhm.
But what we don't see is the journey they've been through until they got there. And we only see one side of the story. We don't know what's happening behind their scenes. Maybe they have a lot of help. And as you mentioned, even with a podcast, you have so many possibility of doing it live or repurposing it. But when you are just getting started, you cannot do all of those things. So just focus on one, just put it out there, commit to record 10 episodes and see if you are going to be able to do it for a long time.
Mhm.
Because podcasting is a long-term game. You are not going to see results if you are just going to record episodes here and there.
Mhm.
And then once you are going to grow your podcast, grow your business, you can hire help that is going to help you promote the podcast on all the platforms that you want.
So we kind of talked about the process, your 3-step framework. Number one is to know
Grab your message. Yes.
Right. Having a message, having a clear message of what you're talking about, and deciding on a topic, having those professional headshots ready to go. And it's funny because when I first started out, I had guests who came out to the show and they sent me a lower resolution headshot and I put it up and I'm thinking, well, if I were that person, I probably don't want my picture to look this way. So then as a host, I had to reach out to the guests again and getting a higher resolution. And it's really important to have that professional look headshot. And this is hilarious because I've seen podcast show where they have the guest on and the guest has submitted a photo that really looks like a criminal on the podcast show. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, it hurts my feeling. And I just don't know what was going through that host's mind when she or he had put out the episode artwork. And I'm thinking, it's just something that as a speaker, as a guest on the show, is something that is really important. A little tiny thing that we don't think about usually to have a professional headshot.
Yes, I also remember a story when a guest sent to my client a picture with a blurry background. They had some kind of drops, like raindrops. And then another one was a red that my eyes hurt. And it was so difficult for me to use those pictures to create a graphic because you, as a podcaster, you are going to use your brand colors. And if I'm sending you a headshot with all the colors in the world, it's going to be difficult for you to create a nice graphic to promote the episode.
Yeah. As a host, I usually try to keep my guests in mind when I'm doing my thumbnails and I would look at, the color, because I had one of my guests who sent out a darker background to me. And when I put the thumbnail together, it just make her look really dull and really dark. And so I reach out to that guest again. I'm like, hey, so here's how it looked. Would you like to send another headshot to me? And it's just like the little tiny things like that. It makes us like becoming more aware of, these are the things that would really make our visibility really pops. And people don't think about it.
Yes.
And I think it's really interesting in your background, you have One Lucky Start. Can you tell us more about how did you start the company One Lucky Start? What does that mean?
Yeah, so I wanted to be someone's lucky star because when I was in high school, I really loved spending my summer days dreaming. And I was looking at the sky and watching the stars and just allowed myself to dream, but dream big. And I was able to accomplish some of those dreams, those big dreams. And this is why when I started, I thought, what if I'm going to help someone accomplish their big dreams? So this is why I named my business One Lucky Star.
I love it because, every time I think about podcasts, I think of it as a virtual stage. And, it's like you have to start seeing yourself as a Hollywood star in order for your brand to be seen, in order for your company to be seen, in order for your business to be seen. Because essentially, a lot of us are doing coaching, but what makes you special? It's because you're self-confident, because your ability to make a change and make impact in this world. And so you should be seeing yourself as one lucky star or a Hollywood star on this virtual stage. And this is your virtual stage. And one of the good things about creating a podcast or being on a podcast is that this is a runway for you to be on. So treat yourself like a superstar.
Yes, it is a stage, and it's going to help you refine your message because you are going to have conversations with a lot of people. So it is a stage. I see it as a stage.
Yeah. And I noticed that you brought some gifts for us. You have a checklist that contains 10 essential things to maximize your impact as a podcast guest. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So these are the things that you will want to have in place before starting to reaching out to podcasters. There are things that you can do so you can be ready to go. And I'm not sure how the time flies so fast. Please let me go through the framework so that people will know. So we had the prep your message. That was the first step. Then it was identify the right podcast for you. So look for those podcasts that are going to allow you to put in front of your ideal audience. And then step number 3 was tailor each pitch. Here is very important for you to personalize each pitch because I know I worked with podcasters and I know it's a lot of work to produce a podcaster. So please try to spend some time to personalize the pitch because it's going to help you connect easier with the podcast host. Sending just generic copy-pasted emails is not going to work. You are just wasting your time. So you will do better if you spend that time genuinely connecting with the host. If you are going to follow them on social media, I'm sure you can find some things that you have in common and start from there your pitch. This is what I usually do. And then finally, create a system that is going to work for you. So you need to remember who do you pitched and when do you want to follow up. And here's where I recommend to use project management system. It's going to help you remind when you are going to book the interview and the things that you need to send to podcasters. And then finally, how to be a great podcast host. That is the final step.
Yeah, there's a lot of work to be a good podcast host. It's a lesson that I have started to learn when I first started out. I want to start a podcast. I'm just going to put it together and record it and let it go. But it takes more than that. You want to make sure that your guest is having a good experience with you. You also want to make sure that you build that connection. And there's a lot of collaboration that happened during that time because you're spending 30 minutes with each other. So that's like really good intimate time to get to know someone.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes. But it's so rewarding also.
It is very rewarding. And back to what you were talking about being personalized. For the last 2 weeks, I have received multiple emails where people just copy and paste, changing the name. And it just doesn't feel right for me. And there's so many errors I see in that copy that I would have taken my time to reply back and just say, hey, please don't copy and paste.
Yes. Because people are not aware. They want to save time, but
it's not a good way to make that personal connection. Yeah.
Yes.
Any last word of advice for our audience?
I know that it can be terrifying to reaching out to people. I remember when I sent my first pitch and got the first no, I was so afraid to tell my client. But she was also a podcaster, so she understood and she said, let's keep going. You need to get better. You need to learn how to do this and just Send more pitches because this is the only way that you are going to get better. And also have conversations with people. See where you can find podcast hosts. Join networking events because every time I joined networking events for entrepreneurs, every time I can find a podcaster. So just have a conversation with them. It doesn't necessarily have to lead to an interview, but you are going to get more information from them. And this is how you can get better at pitching, at reaching out to people.
Yeah, I love it. I think that's how you and I connected through a Facebook group. I was looking for a guest and then you offer your topic and here we are, we're having this conversation. And so just try once, try it again and again and again. It's really about getting our word out there. And, someone who doesn't like my message, maybe they would like your message. So it's really a collaboration. There's so many opportunity that we can get from this podcast.
Absolutely, yes. And other times I just had a conversation with people and they said, hey, don't you want to come to my Facebook group or to my podcast to share more about your knowledge? And obviously I said yes. Yeah. But it's all about connecting with people.
Exactly. All right. Last question for Nina. Where can we find you?
Well, you can find me on Instagram. I just started a 90-day, 1-minute video challenge, and I'm a little bit terrified of this long-term commitment, but I hope I'm going to do it. So my handle is Nina _ my last name is Macarie. And then you can check my website at oneluckystar.com.
Love it. And I will have all the links ready to go in the episode note. So be sure to check out the episode note for all the links so that you can reach out to Nina. Thank you so much, Nina, for coming.
Thank you so much, Michelle. It was so amazing to chat with you today.
Hey, beautiful. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast and found value from this episode, I would love for you to hit that subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform and leave me a rating and review. One thing I was struggling in my early years in business was finding the right people to connect with. It feels like I was on this entrepreneur journey on my own. And sometimes we all just need friends who can share our dreams and hopes. Someone who can relate to what we're going through as we grow our business together. If you are a woman coach who is ready to grow your coaching business and looking for strategies to get seen, get heard, and get hired, I want to invite you to come and find me in our community on Facebook at Get Clients with Storytelling. This is a community of women coaches who want to grow a coaching business by creating engaging, visible, and authentic content with storytelling for their business to get more leads and attract more clients. I will see you at our next tea party.